the most important initiatives underway over the last 25 years or so has been an attempt to enforce employment equity, or to ensure that companies employ affirmative action policies so their workforces reflect our society. Tabea Nkabinde is the Commissioner at the Employment Equity Commission within the Department of Labour. Madam Commissioner, good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time today. When companies have to cut jobs, do they need to remember to keep employment equity in mind as they do that?
Ideally, we would want them to, but we do recognize that this might be difficult because as they cut, they would have to cut where their operations are affected. And, you know, there's no knowing of who in particular will be affected by the cut because it really is an operational requirement. So we recognize that. And as a result, we've gone ahead and communicated with employers to say to them, we do recognize that their employment equity plans and targets would be affected by the impact of COVID-19, but we indicated to them that it would still be important for them to try and stick as close as possible to the employment equity plan and to report at the reporting period.
You have a little bit of a legal stick, although sometimes I know some people say you don't use the legal stick enough. I know it's a very complex area of law. Are you sort of going to give companies then a little bit of time here to sort of get things right as we sort of move through the next couple of years? Or do you think you're going to have to watch this process very, very closely?
We will have to watch the process closely. We are communicating with employers, and often they would send us communication with regards to the challenges that they're experiencing. And because we as a commission do meet continuously and discuss what is happening around the implementation, we would take into consideration what is communicated to us and then tweak where possible and advise the minister appropriately in terms of how to deal with those realities.
In a crisis like this, where bosses have to fire workers or retrench workers, I mean, it'll depend from company to company, but are you worried it might mean that younger workers, the workers who are hired last, are the workers who will go first? And that means that for various reasons to do with our economy and our history, some white people might not be retrenched because they're more entrenched in their jobs, while some black people do lose their jobs. And that would mean the entire process of employment equity could actually go backwards during this time.
Yes, indeed, we're very worried about that. I'm not sure if all companies would use the principle of LIFO because the issue would be that the operations themselves are affected, and therefore employers would have to go and look at where exactly they would need to reduce staff. So it would really depend on operational requirements. However, we are very concerned because what we've seen with the impact of the lockdown and COVID-19 is that inequalities have become extremely exaggerated, and it is those who have previously been disadvantaged that are feeling the pinch of the lockdown and COVID-19 more. So we do assume and suspect that those will be the people that are most affected.
It's been a tough time for everyone. What work have you been able to do with the Labour Ministry during the lockdown? And I realise that, you know, everyone's been trying to sort of get along as best they can.
Yes, it is a difficult time. Even for us, our operations are affected. We're having to meet virtually, and it's very difficult. One of the things that, or two things that really have been impacted on significantly is the fact that currently Parliament would have had the opportunity to deliberate on the amendments that we've put in place to ensure the acceleration of employment equity. And as a result of them having to reprioritize based on COVID-19, it's really not possible for them to get to a place where they can open for public debate on the amendments. Secondly, also the sector engagements on sector-specific targets are difficult to have because of the lockdown. So, you know, our work is really stifled by the lockdown and the impact of COVID-19.